Well, hello and welcome to I Love Gay today. And we're really staying focused in the world of business and specifically LGBTQ business. And we are reconnecting with someone that we had an interview with 3 years ago here. And we're here with Matthew Conrado. How are you?
Hello, I'm so grateful to be back. Thanks so much for having me, Matt.
Well, I think so much has happened in between, as that song goes, what a difference a day makes. Well, what a difference 3 years makes.
Let me tell you, look at where we're at now.
I think it's going to be interesting when we watch this interview, and then and I'll link to it too, and when we post this. But watching the original one that we did 3 years ago, because it's fascinating. It was during the Biden administration. We there was so much positivity and hope, and that was before all the things happened in 2023 with Dylan Mulvaney and so forth, and Anheuser-Busch. So we just had it was such a different take on life at that time.
I know it's wild how much the industry's changed over one campaign, one administration,
Yeah.
everything. But I think, and I have hope that the pendulum will swing back. So that's my message of hope for everyone.
You and I had gotten together over coffee, and I think, yep, we never have to be in agreement on all the details of how we get there because we don't know what the details look like. But I think we're on the same page that yeah, it will get. We will come back. The world of LGBTQ rights and marketing and media and all those aspects will come back, but it'll look different and it'll be interesting. And that's where when we chatted in 2022, you were still with PepsiCo, and so you were very focused. And you've been dealing in the world of marketing and events marketing for quite a long time, but you were at PepsiCo at that time. But now you're on your own, and you've got Alphabet Mafia Consultancy as your company, and that's exciting.
Yes, I'm officially a founder of my own company called like you said, the Alphabet Mafia Consultancy, and I'm so excited. It's so funny because for anyone who's listening that has ever gone through a layoff, I was at PepsiCo for about 7.5 years, and my team got cut, the budget got cut, and I was, laid off. And I took it as a sign from the universe that I meant for different things. I leaned into it, and I started my own company, and I've been so grateful ever since. It's been so challenging yet so exciting, and I feel like there's a new version of me that's blossoming that I don't think would have ever really happened if I had just stayed in a corporate job. So for anyone who does get laid off or feels like their life is ending, just know that there are so many opportunities out there and you have to make them for yourself.
Oh yeah. And but you were already leaning in that direction. I mean, it was separate but similar in the context that at that time, I love the fact that during the pandemic, you had some time on your hands. You were, I think, down in Mexico or some other places, but you were creating these amazing TikTok videos. And that's what we talked a lot about.
Yeah, what was so funny was like, in my last role at PepsiCo, I was kind of feeling a little stuck with myself. And I was like, what does entrepreneurship look like? And
Yeah.
if I'm still at this corporation where I have a stable paycheck, what does entrepreneurship on the side look like? So I started consulting with Motto, which was from the founder of Grindr. I started managing my friend, Joey with a mustache, who's a DJ, a queer DJ. And I was like, dabbling in content creation and just seeing what that was like. And then once I started my company, I really leaned into it
Yeah.
and fell into the world of content creation. Starting my own podcast called Thanks for Swiping Left, building my company and finding new clients. So just really exploring what does the gay Kris Jenner look like, and that's kind of what I go by from a brand standpoint.
Oh, you got me on that. I wanted to make sure we did not leave that out. The gay Kris Jenner. That is, that says it all. I mean, I remember somewhere along the way when I was on TikTok and I was like, wait a second, is this still Matthew? And it's like, oh yeah, you just changed the name on your TikTok profile.
Yeah, well, it was funny. So my friend Joey, he always called me his momager, and that was the joke. And I always said my goal in life was to be the gay Kris Jenner. I wanted to change the way that um, the way the world sees the queer community, and do it through marketing and do it through business. And that's just kind of what I've adapted in life and as a brand. And I love her. I idolize her. I think she's so smart, and I am so impressed by what she's built.
I love that. But I love is that, you've, like you said, you're talking about it, content creation, working with influencers and so forth. So when you were doing what you were doing, on TikTok at that time, and being able to kind of bring a lot of that skill set into where you're at today. But yeah,
Mhm.
now you're able to do that where you're working with other influencers and you're working on experiential marketing and so forth. But being able to take that to that next level. And I even noticed that, I mean, you've got some great friends out there that you in the workspace, like working with the folks at So.Gay, clients such as Gaddy. So you've really been able to bring all that together into some very contemporary, current, what's happening in New York marketing.
Yeah, I love that my company can span across a variety of different companies and industries. Like my big client is Deutsche Bank. I'm working with Match Group as well, down to small queer startups, which was kind of the vision for when I started this company. Like Gaddy's, you said, is a gay dad's apparel brand. I just signed on Cloud, which is Khloe Kardashian's protein popcorn, helping out leadership. Really saying that not only is the growth coming from large corporations that want to understand the queer community, but knowing that the queer community is not waiting for these corporations to make decisions. They're actually going to start their own thing. So I saw this, I think the stat last year was that 15% of all entrepreneurs, record breaking, were queer or LGBTQ. And so I had a vision of like, who is going to be the person that they go to for marketing? And thankfully, people like you exist already, but I wanted to like continue the legacy and continue the torch and put my own spice on it and build that brand as well.
Yeah. But that's when we started talking too, because when you talk about Match.com, it's a client we have in common through they've got this amazing app Archer.
Yeah.
And but I was blown away. It was just a few weeks ago, and I did not know you were working with them on this until I saw the video where you had David Archuleta, and he's what, the trophy ambassador?
Yes, the chief trophy officer at Archer, like Archuleta. It was brilliant. I loved it. It was great. And he kind of gives like a whole Miranda Priestley moment.
He's here. I'm gonna have to call you back.
Archer, Archuleta, for the guys who know who they are
Oh
and
yeah.
what they
But
want.
what's funny is that that's the thing. They're, they and others are always trying to set themselves apart. It's a busy space out there. And but I think they've done a great job when it came to like that concept of trophies. I love some of the trophies they've got out there that you can put on your profile, like Bear Magnet, Big Dom Energy, Certified Daddy. I mean, it's crazy.
Oh, 100%. I think what's so strategic about the brand and what they're really thinking is just how like the gamification of dating apps. And I think that's actually an often overlooked community within the queer community is the GAY, the gamers. And this is just a unique proposition for the brand and for Archer to play into a simpler way to meet people and get right to the point of who you like. So like you mentioned, like Big Dom Energy, certified top, certified bottom, verse legend, just building these communities for people to like quickly find out who they're looking for, and that's just kind of what we're all in it for.
Yeah, well, like you said, looking for that's a great segue. That's where we came into the play is that we actually work with some influencers slash I would say content creators to
Hmm.
create these. It's very hot nowadays. The man on the street interviews where they just walk up to people and just put the mic right in front of them and hey, they've got these crazy questions sometimes they ask them. But we were able to work with Archer to bring the questions together more about online dating. And so one of the folks we worked with has an entire video series that he put together that was all about the looking for modes. It's like, what are you looking for? Dating, hooking up, because obviously not everyone is looking to, meet up right now.
No, totally. And that's actually what's so unique about our community is I think a lot of what they were trying to do originally with dating apps was like take the model of what how straight people date and then apply it to a queer audience or an LGBTQ audience and say, okay, like great, hopefully it will work. But I think what they noticed and just like again, the data says like people have different moods for what they're looking for. And yes, they can be, looking for a relationship, but they can also be just looking for a one-time thing. And that's just like that's what's and so important about having under people that understand the community and business leaders and marketing leaders really understand those nuances because that's just like we just have a totally different way of doing things and that's okay, but it's exciting and it's what makes our community so unique.
Yeah. Like I go back to I like what you had said about the world we're in and working with clients such as this, and we're all in the LGBT marketing space. But you wanted to add your spice to it, and when we were at lunch, not at lunch, at coffee, but one of the key things that was a takeaway from what I heard was that you said something very poignant. It's important, and especially in today's world, you shouldn't put yourself out there. Especially some people do that outside the LGBT community, and they'll say, I'm a marketer, and I want to be all things to all people." And I always tell them, you can't really be all things to all people, especially when it comes to marketing. You've got to be best at something, and you really got to stay focused. But you've taken it to the next level and said, it's important that we acknowledge that we don't want to be all things to LGBTQ people either. That you want to be able to really figure out who you are and who your client is.
Totally, totally. I think from my perspective, and this is kind of the slogan of my company, which is like it or not, whether you like us or not, at least you're talking about us. And, I think that's kind of the sentiment that I carry with our community in general is that because it's such an intersectional community, I think we have so long been stuck in this, okay, well, what's the thing that binds us together? It's a rainbow, which is like what the rainbow logo, or it's, you know, coming out of the closet and identity, which is all true things and they will always matter to our community. But I think what we've learned and why people feel those things are so performative is that the community is actually so they all have their own unique perspective. And actually, going back to your point on like targeting niche communities, I think the best way people can describe my company, and I use this quote in my sales pitch, is like kind of like the Samantha Jones quote, which is first come the gays, then the girls, then the industry. If you really target your market and understand where your product lies uniquely for the queer community in common just user behaviors, I think that's when you can really build a brand and build one that makes sense for the queer community. I think, I always say this, like, you're not like the best example I ever have was the one with Gillette. Gillette had a black trans person shaving with their dad for the first time. And it was a teenager shaving with that. It was like the process of like learning something from your parent. And I think that was so unique because that was the way in which the product it like brilliantly integrated with a unique experience that black trans people experience. And then but it's also a universal message where anyone can look at this marketing and say, yeah, I remember what it was like when my dad taught me how to shave for the first time, or my parents taught me how to ride a bike for the first time. Like, I think that's when you really can capture the queer community, is when you understand those nuances and how your brand aligns directly with someone unique to the queer community.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And it's interesting from the broader perspective. I mean, I remember a time when folks were businesses were amazed that they could just reach gay people, and
Hmm.
you could reach lesbians online too. And
Hmm.
but and then all of a sudden they learned somewhere along the way they were like, oh, we can actually segment that out, and we can reach LGBTQ plus travelers, or we can reach people that are interested in sports. But it was really only over the last few years, and I know community marketing out of San Francisco, they kind of brought this to the forefront with a lot of their research, but they started to educate brands and companies large and small, and they try to explain that we are quite a diverse community, and that we're LGBTQ parents and the especially parents. Parents was a great example because the needs and the interests that parents have is very different than gay singles living in LA or New York that want to go out on, want to find out where the bar scene is every Friday night. And I know that sounds a little extreme, but in general, a lot of the LGBTQ parents were living like sometimes in suburbs on the same block, and they didn't even know that there were other couples or other families in their area because they're just so focused on their priorities or with their families. And so that was just one microcosm of something that I think the various niche communities in the LGBT community, I think I think that's been a more recent discovery that a lot of folks didn't realize was there.
Totally. And that's where I actually see where marketing is going in general. Like, I think that, we'll never get rid of the demographic model. I think that's just like the reality of marketing is just all of our systems have been built for it. At the same time, what you're seeing now is that because there's a cross intersection and that people like these demographics aren't monoliths, that leaning into consumer habits and behaviors, like you said, like either families or people that, like to travel or whatever, like that is actually how you should be looking at your marketing and then aligning with the communities that use your product the most. I think that's actually I would look at that like consumer behavior first and then the target that you're trying to reach, because I think that will just be more um, beneficial to your brand.
Yeah. Well, kind of lastly, I love how you're keeping yourself relevant and out there, especially on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's, I think, both of our favorites. But you're featuring like what we're doing here on this interview. You're featuring folks with your Mafia Spotlight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think again, like when I started my company, I called it the Alphabet Mafia for a reason.
Yeah.
Because one, I liked the idea of reclaiming a derogatory terms towards us. And two, I do believe we are like the mafia. We are like family. And the people that create that are movers and shakers in our community are so interesting. And that's the Mafia Spotlights were really intended to highlight all the queer entrepreneurs that are coming out of the woodworks to really build their own business and make their own paths because they are tired of corporations waiting for corporations to give them this access and give them this opportunity. We have throughout history have always made our own way and paved our own path to equality and success. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And I actually wish we talked about that more. And talking to what you said earlier about, kind of me being controversial online, is that I think where I really stand with our community is I believe that it was important to talk about the trauma. I think it was necessary. And I think, particularly during COVID, that we were given the spotlight and given the microphone to talk about our traumas. And I don't want to invalidate anyone's traumas. I think it's so important. But I think there needs to be a message shifting where we are now empowering the people around us, empowering people within their own community. Because to me, that's where I think we're going to inspire people more. I think just our party and our demographic are so much like they want to see the representation. They want to see people that look like them, but they also want to hear their stories of success. And I don't think talking about their success and emboldening them and empowering them is invalidating any of the past traumas that they have. It's just balancing the fact that they are successful people and you can be a leader. And yeah, you can go through adversity, but you can also come out with major wins. And those are going to inspire the future generation. We want them to feel like they can run the company, that they can, that nothing's going to stop them, that they can be in a leadership position, that they can, run for office. Like I think we got so stuck into the, oh, we can't, and because of this. And yes, that exists. And that's, again, me not invalidating it, but it's also me saying that there is an opportunity and a light ahead of the tunnel. And we want people to feel that. And we want to empower allies to feel like they can speak on behalf of that too. We want them to feel like they're in our tent, that they are can have fun with us and join us, while also recognizing that, there are times where we have our own spaces as well, but we welcome as long as we're communicating. And I want to stress to allies who are watching this that none of us are perfect. And I think that's one thing the reason why we project perfection onto other people is because we've constantly felt imperfect our whole life. We felt like we were never enough. And so we constantly push ourselves. And I think that's why we are, as a community, really successful, high achieving people. So when we expect that from our allies, know that it comes from a place of that's just the constant place we were in for our whole life, but that's just not the reality of the way life works. People are human. Imperfection is real, but I'd so much rather have you in my tent and hanging out with me and partying with me rather than, me yelling at you in a classroom.
Yeah, well put. I get it. We are it's not universal, but we are a lot of overachievers.
Yeah, we are. We are highly successful. I think, our household income is like a lot stronger. We're in positions of power. And that's actually what I love about where we're at within the administration. Like, yeah, we are feeling attacked left and right, but at the end of the day, we are in these positions of power and we're not leaving them. And I think we've been put in these positions of power and we are taking full advantage of the fact that we are going to fight all the attacks against us.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to be there with you when we do get on the other side of all this and we get to see what it looks like. And I'm looking forward to playing a role as long as I'm not too old. And but I know you'll definitely be there.
I hope so. I really do.
With bells on.
Bells on, bells and whistles, and shaking my little derriere.
I love it. I always love getting together with you, and I look forward to seeing you again when I'm in New York again.
Absolutely, Matt. Thank you so much again. And I just wanted to say, take a moment to really thank you and all you've built. I think, it's so funny. I met Matt years ago and I remember sitting in a coffee shop and just chatting, and it was so inspiring. And again, I think seeing leaders like you are part of the reason why I'm able to say that I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's exciting that you've built a platform to talk about, movers and shakers, and you've done the hard work. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. You're sweet. I love all that. So, but no, it'll be great. Like I said, seeing you, and thanks for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So good.